discuss issues about this thing called life. How does a faithful Catholic practice his faith and influence others in the land where there is less than 1% Catholic? In this episode, we have two gentlemen who are right now residing in Japan. We welcome to Buhay Parang Life, Rosauro Kapauan, or better known as Spike to his friend, and Evaristo Francisco, or Titoy to his friends. Welcome to Buhay Parang Life, Spike and Titoy.
Hello, good day. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa! Ano bang ibig sabihin ng konnichiwa, Spike?
Basically, good day.
Good day.
Yeah.
Hi, Titoy. Kamusta ka?
Magandang araw, Rita. Mabuti naman. Kayo, kamusta?
Maulan. Medyo maulan dito sa Pilipinas ngayon. So, Spike and Titoy, what brought you to Japan? Spike, sige, you can go first. Bakit ka na Japan, Spike? Ilang years ka na ba dyan?
Ay, mahigit 20 years na ako. I'm more than 20 years already here. But,
Again, 20 years?
More than already.
Wow, okay. Nakakakamalan ka sigurong hapon, ano?
Actually, I started working there in a country before. Sa PLD, I used to work with PLDT, and then during the time I was invited if I could work here in Japan. I said, why not? So I applied, and then they took me in.
Okay.
Yeah, they took me in. So I started working as an OFW here since 1998.
Oh, ano ba ang skill mo, Spike? Are you an accountant?
I'm an engineer. I'm an electronics and communications engineer, and basically I'm a telecoms professional.
Oh, okay. What about you, Titoy? What brought you to Japan?
So, Rita, I work for Coca-Cola here in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And my wife and I have been here in Tokyo for 6 years now. This is actually third posting ko. Na-assign ako sa Bangkok for 4 years, and then Shanghai for 3 years before being assigned here in Tokyo 6 years ago. All for the same company, Coca-Cola.
Okay. So basically, mga not Catholic countries yan, ano? Bangkok,
yes.
China, and now Japan. So,
yes.
For you, Spike and Titoy, what were the first things you looked for when you first came to Spike sa Japan, and for you, Titoy, when you first entered a country? Kasi as I hear, marami kang postings abroad. Ano yung una nyong hinahanap kapag dumarating kayo sa isang bansa?
Well, aside from a better place to live, where it is not so far from work, you know. Of course, one of the things that I have considered before is where I can go to church. Okay, that's
where you can go to church.
Okay, where I can go to church. That's one, and then where I can also pursue my hobbies, because once you're already here, kapag nandito ka na, kailangan mo rin mag-entertain, and you have to do something also on your spare time, which will also help your body, also be productive.
You mentioned a hobby, Spike. Ano ba ang hobby mo na hinanap mo? Gusto mo doon sa lugar ka na mapapractice mo yung hobby mo?
Actually, when I was there, I was practicing the martial arts, and I'm a scuba diving instructor. Ano? Kaya lang dito kasi sa Japan, ang scuba diving kasi is not as widespread as we have back there in the Philippines.
Madalas
dito, no? Kung magagawa ko yun dito, napakalayo. But one thing I can really do here is I can engage in the martial arts, which I do up to now. Yes.
Okay, what about you, Titoy? Ano yung una mong hinanap tuwing may posting ka abroad?
Well, Rita, of course, naturally, the proximity to the place of work is important, but high up there sa listahan is the Catholic Church. No? In fact, during our visits pa lang to these places, ang hinahanap namin kaagad is a church so we could hear our daily mass, which we'd like to start always our day with. No? You know, when we were being asked, when we are being asked by the relocation agent in the different places we go to, kung ano yung mga musts namin, no? For our home location, sinusulat namin na malinaw, must be near a Catholic church. Napapa-double take sila. Napapa-double take sila. You know, and it's rare for them to see that as a top need. No? So in all the three places, salamat sa Diyos naman, we ended up staying quite near sa parish na pinupuntahan namin. Especially here in Tokyo, it's just a 15-minute walk away from the parish that we go to.
Okay. So kahit pala less than 1% ang Katoliko dyan, may mga simbahan naman na malapit sa mga residential area.
Actually, marami naman din mga simbahan, but sometimes you really have to take an effort to go to them. All right? So you really have to take an effort to go to them. So for example, in my case, the church where I go to is nearly about 1 hour's train ride. All right. In this place where I live, of course, when you say 1 hour's train ride, you're talking about great distances because the train is very fast. Mabilis yung train. Malayo yung, from where I am, malayo yung simbahan. But the convenience of going there is quite bearable. So it's okay. Wala namang problema.
Maganda naman kasi ang
mass transportation.
Kasi quite maganda naman ang commute system dyan. I've been to Japan. Ang sarap sumakay sa mga tren nila.
Well, for the weekend, it's okay. But on rush hours on weekdays. But right now, during the pandemic, medyo nag-iba rin ng konti.
Tito, you mentioned about daily masses. Was that still possible when you were in Bangkok, China, and now in Japan?
It was. No? So daily masses were held in the churches in those three cities. Kaya lang, ang challenge is they're all in the foreign language. Except for Bangkok. Bangkok was the only one which had a Thai mass and an English mass during the weekday masses. In Shanghai and here in Tokyo, puro in the vernacular yung mga masses nila. So yung mga missal namin, dinadala namin yung mga e-missal namin sa mga iPhone, no, to follow the mass. Okay naman.
All right, so share with our viewers your impression on how the faith is observed in Japan by the Japanese nationals and also by the Filipino Catholics there. I can imagine, alam mo naman tayo mga Filipino, we are naturally attracted to each other. You know? I think it is human nature na pag nakakita ka ng katulad mo, then nagiging grupo kayo, nagiging club kayo. So, how, in your observation, how is the faith practiced by the Japanese Catholics and also by the Filipino Catholics? May go first.
Yeah. So what I have observed when I was here, so in some of the parishes where I went, the Japanese community is quite separate because they have their own vernacular mass and so on. And as for the Filipinos, because Filipinos can read and understand English, they become part of what we call the international community. Unless of course that there is a parish where the all other nationals aside from Filipinos are present. So, for example, in the place where Tito goes, that's where I used to go also before, but I moved to a different place. That place has a large international community. So the Filipinos blend in with all the other nationalities, gaya ng mga mostly Americans and Europeans. And some of the Japanese who can speak English, they also join that big community. But for smaller parishes, magkahiwalay sila. Not because they want to be exclusive, but because of the language barrier. It's something like that. And then, as for me now, for example, in the place where I go, because I usually attend now the traditional Latin Mass, the Japanese and the Philippine community, or no, not really the Philippine community, but all nationalities are all together because isa lang ang lengguwahe.
Kasi Latin naman yun, di ba?
It's in Latin, so walang so there is no lamangan pagdating sa
Walang language barrier because
walang language barrier kasi iisa lang.
Pero observation mo sa Japanese Catholic, are they devout like us or you know the nuances of the Filipino Catholic, di ba? Minsan Katoliko sarado pero believing in superstitious beliefs. Ganon din ba ang mga Japanese at saka yung mga Pilipino nandyan?
Well, for the Japanese, for example, I had a Filipino priest friend who used to be here before. He used to tell me, sabi niya sa akin, alam mo, minsan nga, baka nga, kadalasan pa, mas Katoliko pa sa pang-araw-araw na buhay ang mga Japanese. I said, do you know why? Because when it comes to honesty, when it comes to honesty, they are very, very honest, and they're very obedient, and they're
very kind, di ba?
yeah, and they are very kind. So for example, makawala ka, maiwan mo yung pitaka mo from somewhere, and there's no such thing as pickpocketing. There's no such thing as stealing. So whenever you lose something, definitely you're going to find it because someone will really return it to you. Ganon yung ikagay sa atin. And they're very clean with regards to the environment. I tell you, they don't throw trash everywhere. They really pick up where they left off. Pagdating sa mga ganon, they're really very they're very practicing when it comes to that part. Doon sila magaling pagdating sa ganon. And since the Japanese are very used to like following rules, sinusunod talaga nila. Oh, ito. Yun. Ganon. That's how they are.
Do you share the same observation, Titoy?
Yes, in fact, maybe just to build on that, I have observed, no, especially sa mga daily mass, which are really the Japanese masses. They are very devout, no, very devout, full of reverence, kung gumalaw, and the way they pray at mass, no. And then the other observation here is yun nga sinasabi ni Spike that their culture is actually very complementing sa Christian values natin. No? The values of honesty, no, kindness, very kind sila, diligence and hard work, masisipag sila. No? So all these values are very complementing and really speaks well for the Japanese Catholics.
You talk about very reverent. How would you compare? Why do you describe them as very reverent? As ano ang basis mo? Kino-compare mo ba sa Filipino Catholic here in the Philippines and there? Ano ba yung nakikita mo sa kanila that makes you describe them as very reverent?
Yeah. Well, sorry. It's not really a sorry, Spike. It's not really a comparison, but really just an objective, singular observation. Mainly because the Japanese are very disciplined. No, yung kung gumalaw sila, hindi ba? Very, 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 very calculated and everything. So they follow. Yeah.
Is that also true with the young?
Yes, I observed it also with the young, where the place where I'm going. The young, they dress properly. Okay, they don't come in wearing shorts or something. And the girls, they even have veils. Okay, nagbe-veils.
Really?
Yes.
Not in the CLM, I think, but in the Novo Ordo masses.
Yes, I also observed that some of the Japanese in the Novus Ordo Mass, they also wear veils. For example, if you go to Yotsuya, which is a very big parish of the Jesuits, you can see some of the Japanese ladies there. They wear veils.
Oh, okay. So, what would be some challenges or challenges you face in the observance of your faith, Spike?
The challenges that we have over here with regards to the observance of the faith is that you must have your own community. You have to be involved in some kind of a community. Otherwise you will be on your own. All right. Otherwise, you have to be involved in some kind of parish activity. Kailangan meron kang grupo ng like-minded Catholic individuals. And then the Filipinos have managed to do that. For example, dito kasi sa Japan, the CFC is quite active. They're quite flourishing, the CFC. Okay, most especially when the Consul General before here was Mr. Confiado, talagang active. He was very, very active in the CFC. And he was bringing all the Filipinos together. Ayun. And then in parish-wide activities, the Filipinos really come together. Maaasahan mo pag sinabi mo pumunta kayo, ayusin niya. Ayun, doon talaga ang Filipino. Yeah. But one thing is you really have to find a community of like-minded Catholics, because otherwise mawawala ka. You will be you will be alone. Wala kang makakausap and so on. Yeah.
So ang naririnig ko, you are saying importante na para to build your faith, you have to be in a community. Do you share that same sentiment, Titoy?
Yes, Rita. In fact, you mentioned earlier we are less than 1% of the population,
Oo nga eh.
the Catholics here, no? Very few, no? And therefore we are looked at as a minority, really a small minority, no? So that's very important, the sense of community, to be able to reach out, to make friends within the Catholic communities. There are also challenges. Ang ibang challenge dito is yung, let's say, yung mga observance ng Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Christmas Day. You know, these are regular working days here in Japan. so ang kailangan namin gawin, i-tailor fit namin yung leaves or schedules namin, pinaplano namin na maaga para to make sure we're able to hear Mass or even pray during those special days.
Right. So, as a community, ano yung mga bagay na ginagawa nyo?
Well, yes. For example, I started organizing. I started teaching. The Bible timeline. That was many years ago, and Titoy was actually helping me. He provided the venue, and then we got together with some of the international community who attended my talks. All right. So wala pang Zoom noon. You really have to go there to be physically present. Yun ang ginagawa namin. And then, of course, Titoy has his activities. I also attend whenever he gives me an invitation to the monthly recollection of the Opus Dei. Nag-attend din.
So kayong dalawa, you are actually both teachers, formators, in a way. So you give talks. Are you still able to do that these days?
In my case, when during the time when I was conducting the Bible timeline and some apologetic sessions, some of the expats or those from the international community who were attending my talks eventually went back to their country, So unti-unti nawawala, ganon. So it was quite interrupted, but at this present moment, I'm thinking of bringing it back because now we have Zoom. And we can have more coverage at the convenience of not going anywhere but being virtually present. I'm thinking of doing it again.
Right. What about you, Tito? May the disrupt because of the pandemic in the way you practice your faith within a community?
Yeah. One thing we have done, Rita, is kami ni Spike. We organized this Friday Holy Rosary. We reach out to friends and invite them. It's a virtual rosary since the pandemic started last April. Inumpisa namin noon, and ever since we've been doing it every Friday afternoon or Friday evening at 6 p.m. So that everyone gets the opportunity. We get the opportunity to get together even virtually for the rosary and even some chats and sharing at the end of the rosary.
So kamusta naman ang participation ng mga Filipino din sa rosary na ginagawa niyo?
This one that we're doing is small. It's a small group actually. It's a small group of friends. So it's not really one of these widely publicized things. So very small, less than 10 lang kami. Less than 10.
Okay.
Sometimes we're just 4 or 5. Yeah.
All right. So Spike, I do know that you are, doon tayo una nagkakilala in the pro-life movement.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Are you still fighting for family and life while they're in Japan?
Yes, of course, because one of the things which I also emphasize whenever I conduct my Bible studies, whenever I conduct my apologetic sessions, is to make sure that people know about the pro-life cause. And also here in Japan, you may be surprised that we have every year what we call March for Life. So meron kaming March for Life. So like in the United States, they have the March for Life. We also have our own March for Life over here. So I attend that one. Attend that one. It's every year. In fact, a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, Dr. Ligaya Acosta was with us, and she regularly comes here when invited to give pro-life talks. Ayan. So we have this March for Life, and our participation, the people who participate in us is becoming larger. Dumadami na rin kami.
Pilipino lang ba ang sumasali dito or even the Japanese Catholics?
Some Japanese Catholics, actually the organizer is a Japanese Catholic. The organizer is a Japanese Catholic, and he's joined by the international community also. Well, some of the international community and some priests. They also participate in the March for Life.
Am I right? Abortion is legal in Japan.
Well, abortion is legal in Japan, but it's not what we can say as abortion on demand. Okay, it's legal, yes, but it's according to a friend of mine. He is an American. And we used to be in the same parish together, and he has a Japanese wife, and he works for a law firm. Okay, and then they deal with the international legalities, including in Japanese. And he told me in one of our conversations, sinabi niya sa akin na dito sa Japan, the first abortion is you can get it, but it's not like kagaya ng sa in another country, abortion on demand whenever you want it. But the
Yes.
second or the third will really have to pass through the eye of a needle.
Hindi ganon. Okay.
Oo.
Tito, may lumapit na ba sa iyo na Filipino Catholic or a Japanese English-speaking Catholic na wants to have an abortion or nagkakaproblema, life issues?
Not maybe that serious an issue, but may lumapit sa akin or I get to talk to Japanese Catholics who are looking for something more meaningful, something deeper sa faith. No? So we would have chats, right? And I would recommend readings, and even I would invite him to recollections, so that may mga monthly recollections dito. And we also talk about the mass and other matters of the faith to just help him. So it's more of that, not as deep as what you have pointed out, Rita, but really more of just like an apostolate of friendship, just to help him in some small ways.
Okay. So, Spike, may lumapit na ba sa iyo na may family and life issues? Lalo na ikaw, alam nila na very active ka in the defense of life. May lumapit na ba sa Pilipino? Kasi bigla legal naman dito o di ba kasi pag nasa lugar ka na madali ang buhay, in a way modern, first world, parang madali mong makuha yung culture eh.
Mm-hmm.
So may lumapit na ba sa iyo seeking advice?
Well, actually, funny thing you should say that, because only a few days ago, or maybe a week ago, but hindi siya Pilipina, Haponesa.
Wow. Okay.
She sent me a FB request because I was active in this Catholic group also, which is formed by a friend of mine. Our friend with Tito is Inilde, who is an Irishman. Okay, so meron kaming male group, and then sinabi ko sa kanya, you can ask me practically anything you want to ask. So she asked me something like, I had some discussion with the Catholic group, and then I was asking them about the condition for abortion, because, for example, what about if the woman is a victim of rape? Yung ganon, should abortion still be not applied?
Right.
For that case. So sabi niya, and the response that I got from the group is that there is no exception. So sabi ko, they're actually correct. Wala naman talagang exception. Parang ganon. Wala naman talaga.
Pinaniwalaan ka ba? Sinunod ka ba?
Oo naman, sabi ko, the thing is, for some of the nationalities, for example, let's say Filipinos or other nationalities, it may the mindset of that one may be different from yours, because for the Japanese culture is quite different, most especially in your case, you had just been recently baptized. But what if the Japanese was never a Catholic in the first place?
Right.
Yeah, so maybe the Japanese will say that in this case it should be acceptable, it should be an excuse, and so on. But there was a TV show some years back, in NHK, in the normal TV show, wherein they featured those parents who were advised by their obstetrician, gynecologist, to have an abortion because they found out through natal test that the child is going to be Down syndrome or something, may kind of a defect. May
Right.
kind of effect. And then,
Is that okay in Japan? Yung
okay
eugenics
yun.
abortion, yes?
Is acceptable kasi ano yun eh, yun na ang what I can think of their abortion here is not late term. It's not
Yung
late
umpisa
term.
pa lang.
Oh, sa umpisa pa lang, oo. And then there are some couples there who ito, the first case, for example, the couple was advised and they did it without any regrets at all. And then the second case is the couple was advised and they did it, but then later on, their conscience started bothering them. Oh,
Okay.
it is really live on TV. And then the third case is they were advised to do it, but they ignored. And then the child came out. Dalawang cases naman yan. The child came out healthy. The child came out as expected. For example, meron ng Down syndrome, but they
Yes.
never did regret. So, yun yung tinatawag na that God talks to you through your conscience. So, you don't need to be a Catholic to know some of these things. So, pinalabas talaga yan. Oo.
Okay, so last question for both of you. Ang POPCOM recently, the Population Commission here in the Philippines, nag-release sila ng study lately of the rising case of teenage pregnancy. And they are now actually asking Malacanang to see this as a national emergency. They want reproductive health, contraception available to teenagers, to the young. What are your thoughts on this? Tito, you have children?
Yes, I have children. I have adult children, in fact, 31 years old son and 28-year-old daughter. Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so what
but,
are your thoughts on this? Having, making contraceptives available to the very young, to teenage children, to avoid pregnancy?
Of course, it's. I think it's not the right way to go. No, it's not the right way to go. It is more about really going down to the more fundamental thing about building in the right values, building in at an early age, education, right? Education, and also the role of the family in educating the young. No, so it's a multifaceted approach that has to be taken. It has to be aggressive. There has to be a plan in doing this. No, but definitely not contraception.
Yes, Spike. Okay, I have a good input on that. Okay, during the time when we were battling the RH, I also made some research and compared it to what we have here in Japan. And you know what I found out, that sex education here is readily available in the schools. And the kind of sex education that they have here is the type of the contraceptive type. So alam nila, ang mga high school students dito, they really know about all of these things. They really know about these things. They know how to use it.
Does it impact, mababa ba ang teenage pregnancy dyan?
That is why mababa ang teenage pregnancy dito.
But you as a pro-lifer, would you agree to that method of making?
Of course I do not. Of course I do not. Okay, yes. But you see, most like I said, that we are only like 1% Catholics, or a little bit more when you cover all the Christian denominations. So it's a very secular society, and although they practice what they say, Buddhism or Shintoism or what, but they actually just say it for the sake of having something to say that they practice such kind of religion. Yung ganun sa kanila. But what I was saying is that here in the education system here, contraception is really part of what we call sex education here. So I really found out is because when we were here with my family, my daughter was growing at a certain time, and then aabutan niya yun eh. Aabutan niya yun.
Okay. All right. So for both of you, having children who studied there and knowing that sex education is available, how do you manage that? How do you marry the sex education they receive in school and the Catholic faith?
Okay, so in my case kasi, hindi na inabot ng daughter ko because eventually she has to go back to the Philippines to...
Okay. But anong age ba ang sex education dyan?
junior high school, nagsisimula na sila eh.
So, Titoy, inabot ng mga anak mo?
No.
Hindi.
Ano naman, we were here on our own already because they already were in either in university or working already. But you know, even if they were brought up in the they had their education in the Philippines, no, in Manila. But my observation here is, you know, we are not immune even in the Philippines from all these, you know, these from especially from social media, all these ideas and the young, right?
It's very powerful.
And therefore it is really a combined effort by both the home, right, to impart the right values, and the school, right, and the school. So and also going with the right people and going with the right friends.
Okay, for both of you, what is your, alam niyo itong ating Faith Watch channel,
Yes.
it has 173,000 subscribers, and most of our subscribers are Filipinos abroad. So what is your message about them in the way they enrich themselves in their Catholic faith, being away from home? Sige, Titoy, go first. Anong final message mo?
So, just a final message. There are challenges in many countries, no, outside the Philippines, of living in a non-Catholic place, in a non-Catholic society. Marami sa atin, mga kababayan na ganyan. No? But at the same time, let's look at this as an opportunity for us to strengthen our faith, to live our faith, to be witnesses for Christ and Mama Mary. And wherever we go, be a light of Christ. No, be a light of Christ. So God bless sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Titoy. What about you, Spike? But first of all, Spike, for clarification and apologies, Rosano Kapauan. Ang tagal na natin magkaibigan. Spike, na mali pa talaga ako. Rosano Kapauan, better known as Spike, your final message to Filipino Catholics, most especially abroad, residing abroad.
So what I can advise to them is that they should really study our faith, okay? Because that is one thing which will ground you to the truth. And in this age where we have access to the internet and we have all the possible resources where we can get them and study from, so we can actually study even if we are away from other people in our own free time. But what I can say is that please pray the rosary every time. Napaka-importante ng rosaryo talaga. It is quite hard at first, but eventually you will find out that you will be developed. You will develop as a better person. I really advise people to please pray the rosary every time.
Thank you, Spike. Akala ko tuloy Rosauro ka nga kasi nga yung rosary. Okay, thank you. Many thanks to both of you, gentlemen, Titoy and Spike.
Yeah.
I pray that God will bless you in all ways for always. Thank you so much.
Rita, maraming salamat rin, Rita. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, and God bless to you too.
Yeah, thanks for giving us the opportunity to share.
Maraming salamat. So wherever you go, be the light of Christ to others. Live and enrich your Catholic faith. This is Rita David reminding you today, kabahabaan po ang pasensya sa pagkatang buhay, parang life.